Hello, everyone. My name is Jonas Jenkins, and I am a graduate student at Grand Canyon University. My course is Policy Management for Security Solutions. Today, I'll be making a presentation to the board of directors, explaining to them why cybersecurity is strategic and a great aspect of an organization-wide strategy. And in order to do it, present to senior management why cybersecurity is strategic and a great aspect of an organization's wide strategy, we are going to look at how communications flow within the organization, how the design elements are implemented, how we communicate our issues to our audience, and how we write, how writing processes are integrated within our community. In order for us to effectively communicate, we have to understand our audience, understanding the needs of our audience, what our audience needs from us, what their expectations is a great way of effectively communicating cybersecurity issues to them. It is essential equally that we know the background of where the various board of directors are coming from, where what are their expectations, and the targeted audience, if they are experts within the cybersecurity field, if they are probably coming from other fields. It's important that we understand the audience and know exactly their backgrounds and where they're coming from, and so that we know effectively how we can communicate with them. We'll equally look at the writing process. The writing process is very essential within the cybersecurity field, and it's essential that the board of directors should know that effective communication has to integrate writing processes. Writing processes must be followed rigorously. Pre-writing, where we do our drafting of what we have to present, we have to do revisions of what we've written, and equally do spell checks. We have a great tool that Grammarly, which of course gives a free version, or a free version of Grammarly, where we can actually go to check if our grammar is correctly formatted, if our statements are correct before we do them before we present them to our audience in the form of drafts or manuals, or even when we are presenting security awareness programs, where we have to write our manuals and documentations. We make sure that the language is properly presented, that our drafts and revision papers are clearly presented in a language where everybody will be able to understand. Another aspect is implementing design elements into our communication. Design elements, we have to look at the technical communications and see how we can add certain aspects like charts, or graphic designs, or and the layout, and in order to make sure that our communications flow very well, so that the audience is able to understand. We could equally use images to do some demonstrations, which will equally, because of course images are a form of communication, they speak well, and of course of certain processes we can do some designs to show how our cybersecurity program is. We could use things like the pie chart or the Gantt charts to do some presentations as well. So this will be a very effective way of doing presenting our audience with our core goals, and how our cybersecurity program can be integrated within the entire organization. Apart from that, when we have set up all these goals, we equally have to look at how we can implement a 3 to 5 years program within our environment. We want to look at our operational goals, which will be the day-to-day expectations that we want to set up. We look at our midterm goals, which come within, which fall within our tactical strategy. Then we look at our strategic strategy, which is like our long-term goal that we want to present. Within our operational plan, which is our short-term goal, We can say our operational plan will be our initial plan for the first year, where we do our security audits, we do our incident response management, we do our security awareness trainings in order to train employees. The audits want to actually make sure that employees are using the system correctly. We do through audits. We'll look at audit logs, how people log into the systems, if their accounts are appropriate. Want to do audits to get vulnerabilities within the system and identify potential risk. Incident response programs, we have to set up an incident response team that respond to incidents, of course, to security breaches and fix them or remediate those security breaches as they are discovered. Our security awareness programs, our new hires, we have to train them appropriately how to use our systems. So these are the things that we have to integrate within our operational plan. And of course, patch management is not forgotten. We have to do our system patches. We have to do so much so that if gaps are discovered, those gaps should be remediated. And of course, our access management, we have to make sure that access is appropriate. Those who are given access to the system, we do our quarterly or annual system reviews or account reviews to make sure that those who have access within our systems, those accounts remain appropriate. Within the tactical management plan, which is our midterm plan, remember our operational plan was our first year. So our midterm plan now will be probably our second to third year program, where we look at the tactical management and focuses on our midterm goals. Our midterm goals can be improving on our security incident management by improving on our system, implementing some things like the SIEM, security information and events management tools that monitor our systems and give us alerts. We want to equally bring in a vendor management program where we can outsource certain processes to certain vendors where and manage them appropriately. Want to equally look at our data loss prevention programs. Our data loss prevention program will probably fall within our data privacy program. We want to make sure that privacy within our organization is kept so that we remain compliant with the federal laws and standards. We equally want to look at our reporting matrix. How do we report matrix? How do we report things that we discover, like incidents, to senior management? We want to look at how our reports are presented. So this will be our second to third year goals. Then our strategic plan, which is our long-term goal, want to look at how we improve on our security architecture, protecting our network, doing more network design program, network segmentation, to including firewalls within that particular environment. Then we look at how we can do a business continuity plan and a disaster recovery plan. This will equally fall within our long-term goal plans. Then we look at emerging threats. What are the threats we preempt? What are certain threats that can befall our organization as time goes on? Then we implement programs such as maybe machine learning or artificial intelligence to actually pick up some of these processes for us. So while we've implemented our long-term and short-term goals, or maybe giving a program or analyzed our operational, tactical, and strategic plans, we have to look at who are those to manage the organization. So this comes into identifying key roles and responsibilities within our organization. Within our organization, the first key role that we want to look at is top management. Top management are the folks that have to set up our security program, the business goal that has to align with the strategic goals of the organization, how decisions have to be made within that level. And so a top executive has to come in and set up all these goals and, of course, design the various teams. Then the next thing that we want to equally look at will be the next role will be that of the chief information security officer. A chief information security officer has to be appointed or has to be hired, and this individual will be the one to manage the risk, craft the risk, and work directly with senior management in order to make sure that he oversees the entire organization's risk management program. After that, the next role will be that of an IT manager or IT management leadership, where we have to identify key roles and responsibilities within the organization, people that will collaborate with the chief information security officer in implementing the entire security program. And another key role will be that of the human resource manager. This will be the one that will craft awareness and training manuals for employees. He will equally have to work with certain law enforcement departments to implement a background check process where employees have to go through background checks before they are hired or before they are given access to the system. And then we look at the compliance officer. The compliance officer within the organization will have to make sure that the key standards, the standards and regulatory standards are met. Here we look at things like the ISO 27001 processes. Want to look at the NIST standards, where organizations have to make sure that they carry out risk assessments to adhere with the NIST, and of course manage the entire risk. This individual will have to make sure that the organization actually has a compliance program that it follows. Then the risk officer will have to look at how risk across the organization is assessed, and of course he works equally with the CISO to make sure that vulnerabilities, the impact assessments are equally carried, and of course the organization remains actually safe. Of course, we know that we cannot actually achieve 100% protection within organizations, but of course we make sure that the key aspects of protections, firewalls are implemented, key aspects of access controls are implemented to make sure that the organization remains safe. Security controls are equally implemented. And we look at the operational team, where the incident response team has to come in, where identified incidents are resolved timely, and of course systems are operating effectively as well. We equally look at the infrastructure team that has to protect our network architecture. The network architecture has to be protected by firewalls, by DMZs, by IPSs and IDSs that monitor and send alerts if there are any security incidents. When we've set up these roles and responsibilities, now the organization has to equally make sure that they meet compliance. They meet they meet various compliance regulations. We have to look at the IT governance frameworks, and we look at the cybersecurity framework. These frameworks are crafted for the organizations to adhere to and implement that organization-wide program in order to remain safe and meet compliance within the entire organization. And in order to ensure compliance, it is important that we evaluate the components of the governance and the cybersecurity frameworks. And these frameworks are established in order to make sure that the organization actually meets the requirements. Within the IT governance framework, we have to look at things like the FISMA, which displays the minimum requirements for security, maintenance, and threat prevention within the federal industry. The FISMA program is actually crafted by the U.S. Federal government that has to, and it's managed by the Office of Management and Budget. And the next framework that we have to look at is the PCI DSS, the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standards, that outlines the requirements for the payment card industry that protects card holder data. Another requirement within the IT compliance or the governance is the GDPR, hiring with data protection regulations. With this, the GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, is a European data privacy framework that is built to protect the privacy of the EU citizens. So and then we have the ISO 27001 standard, the Information Security Management Standard that that manages that's a compliance standard that prescribe processes for managing the entire organization's security program. The next thing it will be that we'll look at is evaluating and adopting a framework that helps organizations maintain security. Those frameworks that help organizations maintain security, we'll look at the cybersecurity framework. The cybersecurity framework is actually established to lay down or to propose security controls that organizations have to use in order to remain safe. We have to look at the CIS controls. The CIS control, the Center of Internet Security. These are controls that are meant to prioritize how threats within organizations can be detected and monitored. It helps organizations to know their security posture. Then another one is the NIST SP 800 series. The NIST SP 800 series is another U.S. Federal government framework that has to do with the standards. Here, they prescribe the NIST 853 security controls, how the security controls that have to be implemented within various systems in order to protect them. We know of the NIST 830, which is a guide to risk assessment. The NIST 837, which is a guide to implementing the risk management framework, which is a framework prescribed by the federal government in how security metrics of federal contractors and federal systems have to be reported to the Office of Management and Budget. The NIST is actually a standard which is regulated under the Department of Commerce. So when all these standards and compliance frameworks have been implemented within the organization, it actually helps the organization attain its its operational, tactical, and strategic goals. When we've identified all these other programs, it is equally important that we look at how we can identify, communicate, and solve problems within our computer systems. In order for us to identify all these problems within the computer systems, one of the key aspects is effective communication. How do we achieve effective communication? We achieve effective communication within the cybersecurity industry by making sure that guidelines are developed. When the guidelines are developed, disseminated to users, and we have an asset manager that makes sure that these guidelines are disseminated to users, it helps in order to make sure that employees actually know what they are supposed to do. They know what they are supposed to implement within their environment. In order to identify risk, organizations have to carry out risk assessments. They have to carry out vulnerability scanning. They have to carry out penetration scanning within their environment. They have to carry out tests. They have to carry out audits. They have to carry out equally interviews of personnel to know how their security programs are implemented within their environment. All these aspects of the examine, the interview, and the test, the examine security artifacts, the test security controls, and the interview personnel in order to identify weaknesses. When these weaknesses have been identified, there's a collaboration within the various teams in order to address those weaknesses. How do we collaborate? We collaborate within the different teams. Different teams come together and collaborate within each other. We know of the MOUs, the Memorandum of Understanding and Security Interagency Security Agreement. That lay out processes where organizations can actually collaborate with, where systems can actually collaborate with each other and share information on how they can protect themselves. Another aspect is transparent accountability. This when issues have been identified within systems, they have to be resolved and communicated to where need be. And one of the aspects where that has to support this is transparency and accountability. How do we improve transparency within our organization? Is by doing audit log analysis. Audit log analysis will actually identify who is using the system correctly and making sure that systems are used correctly. Improper activities within the system are tracked and monitored. This will help in protecting us from security breaches as well. Then, when we've discovered all this, then we have to do effective communication during cyber attacks. We do effective communication during cyber attacks. Organizations cannot achieve their goals if cyber attacks are not communicated to the right individuals. Within the employee, communication within employees, within the clients, and within the various stakeholders has to be communicated. This will be through awareness trainings. This will be through manuals as well. So it's important that we identify how we can identify, resolve, and communicate security attacks within our systems effectively. And so when all those security attacks have been communicated and have been identified and communicated within Ability IT Solutions, we have to equally look at how we can implement our 3 to 5 years goal to align with and support the organization's mission and the organization's mission and vision. And these goals are set by the Chief Executive Officer. What does the Chief Executive Officer do in order to meet the 3 to 5 years goal within the organization? He actually has to align these missions and the vision of the organization. How does he do that? He has to by contacting various stakeholders. Various stakeholders have to be involved within the process. We have to enact innovations. We have to meet compliance regulations in order to effectively communicate these processes. In order to meet the long-term, the short-term goal, which are the operational goals of the organization, we have to align them with the organization's mission, which is how to effectively get vulnerabilities, how to train users, and how to make sure that the organization remains safe. The next item that we equally have to look at will be the vision. How is the vision of the organization communicated to the, or how does the vision of the organization align with our operational goals, our tactical and strategic goals? We have to look at this in terms of a secure digital transformation. We have to make sure that our information security program aligns with our strategic goals, our tactical goals, and our operational goals. And this will be through the adoption of a robust security program within the entire organization. We have to look at business resilience, how we implement business resilience within the program in order to meet our long-term goals as well, or our tactical goals. We have to make sure that We equally adopt programs like expansion and trust, where we look for new markets during our strategic plan, during our long-term goals. We look for new markets to expand our industry. And so when we've achieved all the above, getting aligning our short-term goals, our long-term goals, and our strategic goals within the organization, we have to, at the end of the day, look at how the various documentations, how the various standards, policies, procedures, guidelines are implemented within the organization to help the organization grow and meet up its requirements. One of those things is implementing an organization-wide policy. What is a policy? And a policy is an organization-wide document that lays down how the various components of the organization have to come together in order to meet the organization's goals. Here we develop policies on user awareness policies, bring your own device policy, end user device policy, access control policy, change management policies. These are policies and organization-wide specifications that are developed to make sure that the organization's goals and business objectives are driven and conveyed to the stakeholders and to the users in a way that they understand and achieve and will help us achieve our objectives. Standards are mandatory regulations that are laid down for organizations to actually follow. We know of the NIST standards, we know of the ISO standards, we know of the GDPR standard, we know of the FedRAMP standards, we know of so many standards, the PCI DSS, the HIPAA. All these are mandatory to the various organizations in that particular area of practice. Those within the health industry have to be are mandated to use the HIPAA standards, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, that lays down processes with how electronic health information has to be protected. These are standards. They must be followed rigorously. They are compulsory. Then procedures. Procedures are the step-by-step artifacts or the step-by-step instructions how certain things have to be achieved. In order, for example, in order for us to carry out, to do a risk assessment, we have to examine documentation, we have to test, and we have to interview. This is a process of doing a risk assessment. It is different from other procedures, but different from other regulations. But procedures actually lay down the step-by-step process through which things have to be done within an organization. Then we have guidelines. Guidelines are recommendations. They are not mandatory, but they are recommended when maybe standards are not present. They are recommended for people to use, for users to use within the organization, for the organization to achieve its strategic goals or its operational goals, its tactical goals, and its strategic goals. Thank you so much for listening. This was Jonas Jinken, Grand Canyon University. Thank you.